Hey guys, this is pointer number 33 and our discussion on open air preaching. This is actually a redo. I did pointer number 33 earlier today. I posted it and I got to thinking about it and I just wanted to change it up some. And so pointer number 33 is very similar in case you happen to watch the one I posted earlier. But pointer number 33 is this. It's answer questions with the crowd in mind, okay? So that means when somebody individually may ask you a question or make a comment, answer any questions asked with the crowd in mind and stay in charge. Stay in charge. And so I was preparing for my sermon for tomorrow, and in my text, the text that I'm covering tomorrow really reminded me of this point. And so we see Jesus in Luke chapter 12, verses 13 through 21. He was open air preaching. There was a crowd. He was preaching outdoors. And a great crowd had gathered. He had been dealing with the Pharisees. He had been talking to the Pharisees, about the Pharisees, telling his disciples and others to beware of the Pharisees. And so the crowd just kept growing. And so in verse 13 it says, someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the family inheritance with me." But he said to him, "Man, who appointed me a judge or arbitrator over you?" In other words, Jesus didn't come to settle these family disputes. That's not what his purpose was. And so he quickly got to the point. This is where I say, whenever you're asked a question or a comment like this, that could easily, it could easily get you off course. You need to remember that you have a crowd out there. Assuming there's other people out there. You have other people listening. So we're not going out there to just talk about family matters and civil disputes. We're out there to preach the gospel. And so that's what we see Jesus doing. It says in verse 15, then he said to them, the crowd, "Beware and be on your guard against every form of greed, for not even when one has an abundance does his life consist of his possessions." So he takes what that man says and turns it into an evangelistic sermon. And then now he gives this parable. This parable in verse 16 through 21, he told them a parable saying, the land of a rich man was very productive. And he began reasoning to himself, saying, "What shall I do since I have no place to store my crops?" Then he said, "This is what I will do. I will tear down my barns and build larger ones. And there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, soul, you have many goods laid up for many years to come. Take your ease, eat, drink, and be merry." But God said to him, "You fool, this night your soul is required of you, and now who will own what you have prepared? So is the man who stores up treasure for himself and is not rich towards God." And so Jesus took what this man said. He didn't give him his wish. He didn't even deal with it. He didn't even deal with the question that he asked. Instead, he addressed something much more important. He addressed the greed that's in this man's heart. Obviously, he knows all things, so he knew it was in this man's heart. But he preached this message to the crowd, right? He took something that an individual said. And the same thing happens with us when we're out there preaching. There'll be comments, questions, and what we need to do, we need to not only don't get distracted and go down and let somebody throw a red herring at you, take you off track, rabbit trails, but take charge. Not only don't let them distract you, but use what they say. Use their question, use their comment to turn it into an evangelistic sermon. So that's what he did. He told this parable. This guy, this wealthy man, and his crops are doing well. And so he just gave this parable about this guy. He called him a fool because his mind was totally absorbed in his earthly possessions and his money and his greed. And then, boom, death came that night. And so we can do the same thing when you're asked a question. When somebody makes a comment, don't let them distract you. Stay in charge. You're there to preach the gospel, right? We're there to follow in the footsteps of Christ. He came to seek and to save the lost. That is our mission while we're out there preaching the gospel. So stay on mission, stay in charge, and use any questions. And it can be a good question. It could just be, you're just in a dialogue with somebody. That's the great thing about using an amplifier. If you're in a place where you can use an amplifier, you can just be literally witnessing to somebody will ask you a question, and you end up just witnessing to that person. And so it's always so great if the conversation's going well. You know, and I tell the person, I say, I'm going to leave my amp on and continue to talk to you so that others can hear our conversation. You know, there'll be times when you're preaching and you're engaged with one person like that. And there have been many times that I have turned my amp off and just spoke to that one person. If I felt like the conversation was very personal and they were really opening up their soul to me. And you know, there'll be times where it's just time to just talk to that person one-on-one. But if it's just a conversation and you're just going over the gospel, answering questions, man, just remember, you have other people listening. So stay in charge. You know, learn from the master. He did not get sidetracked, but his preaching was always headed towards eternity, headed towards life after death, headed towards being right with God. And so we must follow in his footsteps. Anyway, guys, God bless you. Have a great day.